I think I can speak for most of us mental health professionals when I say that as a therapist, I genuinely want to help people, and I know you do too. And we come to therapy sessions when we're working with clients very warm and empathetic and compassionate. We try to be understanding and hold space for them because we genuinely care and want to help them. And yet, despite all of those good intentions, all of the training and expertise that we might have, unfortunately, we're not immune to the fact that we're humans and breakdowns in communication happens. People can misunderstand things. We can come across in ways that we don't intend to, and a rupture can occur in the therapeutic working relationship. And it's not a matter of let's figure out how to completely prevent this, because I know that people are not intentionally trying to create this situation in their practice, but it's actually about, okay, so if it does happen, what the hell do you do? And how do you move forward in a way that supports the client and you as a professional as well? And so today I'm going to break down for you exactly what to do if you suspect a rupture has occurred, how to address it, and what to do moving forward to continue to enhance your skills as a therapist. So, why might a rupture occur? Well, again, we're humans, we're imperfect people. And sometimes, despite all of our best intentions, we can come across in a way that is just not helpful for the client. I mean, I don't know how things are landing for a client unless they tell me. I can try to pick up on some cues verbally and non-verbally, but the reality is that when I say something, I just hope it lands well and it's helpful and it feels supportive for the client. And yet, even though I want to do that, sometimes you might find that it just doesn't feel that way for the client and their experience is very different than your experience. And so, miscommunication, breakdowns in communication, hurt feelings, misunderstandings, like all of these things can happen, which would create a rupture to occur. We also want to be mindful that, sometimes we're working with clients who have very deep, big attachment wounds that they're trying to work on or that have caused a lot of the reasons that they have come to therapy. And so that can create a lot of difference in perspective and opinion about how people come across and how we might come across. And so if I have a different perception on what is helpful than the client, naturally, I might say something or do something that I think is really helpful that they don't. And whether they have attachment wounds or not. But if they do have attachment wounds, then that can drastically skew how different our perceptions really are. And so there's a lot of reasons in which a therapeutic rupture might happen. I don't think it's because we're out here trying to do harm, but the reality is that they still happen. And so how you manage that and move forward with that is the most important piece. So let's talk a little bit about what to do if you suspect that a rupture has occurred. Now, it would be great if all clients were very open and vocal and quickly pointed out, hey, you really pissed me off, or hey, you really hurt my feelings, or I felt like you were being really insensitive in that moment. But unfortunately, that's a really hard conversation to have. And not all clients that you work with are going to feel that comfortable being assertive and vulnerable and open with you right there in that moment, especially to your face. And so you might actually notice some nonverbal cues instead of them actually saying that, but it's good to understand what that looks like so that if you are picking up on behavior changes or they just seem to not be acting like themselves, you can tune in and figure out, okay, what's going on there? Let's talk about it and hopefully create a bridge between what you're noticing and the conversation they're not having with you to help them get to that place where they feel comfortable and confident telling you what's happening. So, what are some signs? Well, I think the biggest sign is a behavior change. So, if you notice that they're not typically defensive and they seem to be defensive or shutting down randomly, or you notice that they seem really on guard this session and they never are like that, or you notice that, hey, they seem to be kind of hard to reach. I feel like that normally we can kind of get a good flow here, and I just feel like I'm having a hard time connecting with them. Obviously, this is not a blanket statement that all of those things mean a rupture has occurred because they could mean a lot of things are going on. But I do see where when there's behavior changes in the client, that oftentimes is signaling that something has happened. And so if you notice those things, it could be a lot of reasons why that's happening, but it also could mean that something has happened in the working relationship between the two of you that they feel like that they need to be on guard or minimize things or not open up or seem really closed off. And so if you notice any of those things, I definitely would put a pin in that and say we need to circle back to that and figure out what's going on if I can't pinpoint from our conversation anything else that might be alluding to why your behavior is showing up that way. Another behavior change would be if they just stop coming to treatment randomly. Now, again, they could stop coming to treatment for a variety of reasons. But if you have a really good working relationship, you feel like things are really going well, or maybe you had a really tough session last time and you're like, ooh, I don't know, I didn't like the way that, I left feeling after that. And then they miss the next appointment or they come up with a reason to cancel last minute, or they just ghost you completely. Then I think all of those would be indications that something has clearly happened. Could there have been a rupture in the therapeutic relationship? Of course, if they ghost you and you can't talk to them or you can't reach them, then you're not going to be able to really utilize the strategies that I'm going to talk about in today's video. And unfortunately, sometimes that just happens, but people also ghost you for a variety of reasons that have nothing to do with you. And so this might be what's going on. It might not. It's another factor that could clue you in that, hey, something's going on here. Now, let's say you are picking up on these signs. It is your job to make sure that you are addressing that with the client and really trying to figure out from a place of genuine curiosity and understanding what the heck is going on. And so if you notice that, be assertive and hold space for the client to talk about this and simply broach the conversation and ask them, is this what you're noticing really happening? Do they realize that that's happening? And what's going on that's causing that to happen? So I might say something like, hey, you seem really closed off today. I'm wondering if something has happened since we last spoke. Another way you could say it would be, hey, I seem to have really put you on the defense there, and I did not mean to do that. I'm wondering if I've upset you. And what you're doing is you're calling attention to it immediately and saying, yo, something's happening here. Like, what's going on? It's safe to talk about it, but I really think it's important. So let's go ahead and talk about it. And from there, my hope is that they feel comfortable talking to you about it. And some might not. And there's nothing you can do to fix that or change that. But if you're not even having the conversation to begin with, then they're way less likely to bring it up on their own because, again, that's hard to do. So it is our job to broach that conversation and to say, hey, I'm noticing these things. Like, I'm curious or I'm worried. What's going on? Now, you could be wrong and they could be like, nothing's bothering me. Or, oh, I've just been having a bad day. And it could have nothing to do with you. But again, approach that conversation and at least just check in and see, because even if it's not a rupture that's occurring, it's still good information to know to figure out what's going on with them and how to support them. But if a rupture has occurred and they say, yeah, actually, like, you really hurt my feelings last week, or you seemed really insensitive when you said that just now, or I feel like I can't trust you anymore after what you said last week, then that clues you in that, okay, a rupture has definitely occurred. Something has happened to break down our relationship. I need to figure out what is going on and really try to work on addressing this and mending the rupture that has happened. So hopefully at that moment they feel comfortable enough to say, hey, actually, yeah, you really hurt my feelings. And this is going to be hard as a therapist because I know we're not trying to do anything that's harmful. I know we're not trying to hurt people's feelings. And I know we all want to be helpful. And yet, sometimes, despite all of the best intentions and work that we're doing, we still have a situation arise where we have caused harm or we have hurt somebody's feelings or they feel like that they can't trust us. And so this is probably going to feel uncomfortable. I would be surprised if it didn't, but this is so important as a therapist to really give them space to talk about and kind of like verbalize what's happening and give you some serious feedback, because I can't even begin to address this if I don't know what's happening, which means I need to ask them what's going on and then really hold space and just give them the opportunity to tell me what's going on. And I need to make sure that I check myself, because if I'm quick to become defensive myself, if I minimize what they're saying, if I quickly try to rush in and fix it or quickly try to say like, oh, that's not how that was, it's going to feel very invalidating to them. And it's just going to create a bigger space between you and that client, when really what we're trying to do is close that gap and bring us back together so that we feel like that we can continue to move forward in our work. So this might be hard. This might feel very uncomfortable, but we just have to sit with that and just listen to whatever feedback that they give us. And hopefully clients feel comfortable enough to say, yeah, like, I feel like you're really insensitive when you smiled when I made that joke, even though I was actually being really serious or I was really sad. Or they may say something like, actually, I'm really upset with you that you had to cancel your appointment last week with me. I really needed to see you. Whatever it is, I encourage you just to sit there and just to take it and just listen and just hear what they're saying. And really, before you jump in and be quick to respond, really take in and try to understand okay, how might I have shown up that way, even if that wasn't my intention? How has this impacted the client? What are they saying? And what do I need to do moving forward? And then once you have done that, which is you just honoring and acknowledging that this is how they feel, only then would I encourage you to kind of say your piece, but make sure you're doing that in a way that's client centered. And what I mean by that is don't make it about you. Don't feel like you need to defend yourself because a rupture has occurred in that moment. And so there's no reason for us to argue about it or defend ourselves. Like, we just need to acknowledge, hey, I've clearly upset you or I've clearly offended you. And then just simply say, that was not my intention, or that's not what I meant by that, or I wasn't aware that that hurt your feelings. Thank you so much for telling me. And just honor and acknowledge, but don't feel like that you have to fix. And do make sure that you tell them, hey, like that wasn't my intention. And I'm sorry that your feelings got hurt, or I wasn't aware that that was coming across insensitive, and that's really on me. I'm sorry that I came across that way. That wasn't my intention, and I hope that you understand that I'm human and clearly I made a mistake there. But I wouldn't go further. I wouldn't feel like that you need to over explain or try to quickly like get in and fix this, which I know might feel easy to do, or you might have that strong desire to be like, I need to like fix this really quick because this is making me feel yucky, or it's making me feel like I'm not a good therapist, or it's starting to make me doubt myself, or now I feel like I'm an imposter. And I I want to go there in a second, but before we do that, I just want you to simply in that moment just try to put those feelings aside for a second. Be like, that's my stuff. I need to figure that out in a moment. But right now, I just need to work on seeing what I can do to support them the way that they need. And if you can do this, if you can just even simply have a conversation with them back and forth, you are doing the clients an amazing service. Because let's face it, conflict is hard, confrontation is hard, communication is hard, being assertive is hard. And a lot of times we're working with clients who have not been modeled any of those things in a very healthy way. And so understand it takes a lot for them to likely tell you. And there may be some worry on their part that my therapist is going to be mad at me, or this is going to end our relationship, or they don't care about me anymore. And we want to make sure that we are providing them an experience, and oftentimes it's a corrective experience from things that have not happened well in their life, but a corrective experience in a way of, hey, like we can have hard conversations and I'm not going to be mad at you, or I'm not going to fire you as a client, or I'm not going to minimize what you're saying, or I'm not going to come across as invalidating. Like, we want to make sure that we are at least having this conversation and showing up in those ways so that the client knows, okay, like we can have this conversation. I can bring up how I feel, and it's a safe space to do so. And hopefully, the client feels like that this is something that can be repaired. That's best case scenario. Hopefully, once you say, your piece and you honor and acknowledge their feelings and you apologize, that's important, that they can look at this and go, I still want to work with you, or I understand things happen, or I understand that wasn't your intention. That's best case scenario. Obviously, there are going to be times where, despite all of the work that we're trying to do to repair the relationship, it's not fixable, or the client is like, I don't want to work with you anymore. And that's going to suck. That's going to hurt to hear, and that's going to feel gross. It's going to feel so uncomfortable. And again, we'll get there in a second on how to deal with that. But sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles, and that's just what happens. And so best case scenario is that it is fixable, and if it is fixable, then you guys can continue to work together. And now you have the information moving forward to know, hey, like for this client in particular, I've got to really be mindful of X, Y, or Z, or I've got to really make sure that I do this when this is happening for them, so that I don't end up coming across in a way that for them feels hurtful, unkind, not compassionate, whatever is happening for them in that moment. Now, I've talked a lot about your stuff, and when a client gives you feedback, it's natural that's going to bring up some stuff for you. So let's talk about what to do with that, because it's unfair for the client for us to say their perception is just wrong all the time, right? Like, no, sometimes that's really not true. Like, clients are very perceptive. Clients can pick up on things. They feel their feelings, and that's not something that we can argue. And so, while sometimes you might feel like this is a difference in opinion or perception based off of maybe some other things that we need to work on in therapy, a lot of times that's not the case. And what's happening is that you have come across in a way that has been hurtful, and there is no arguing that. It's just, that is what it is. And so it's really important that when clients give us feedback, regardless of what it is, that we sit with that, that we take that in and we really reflect on that and figure out, what do I want to do with that? And I encourage you, if this is you, seek some consultation, talk to a trusted colleague or a supervision group, and really think about, what do I need to do with all of this information? It also might be helpful to seek your own therapy, because if a client brings up something that you feel like is maybe really true, like the client thinks that you're not paying attention to them and you're always stressed out, and they give examples of how you're oftentimes late or on your phone or what have you, which I hope you're not doing, but we're humans, right? So if you are, it's okay. Just address it. But if they're giving you that information, then it might be helpful for you to take that to your own therapist and go, I really need to like figure this out. Like I need to figure out what's going on with me, why I am struggling to show up my best. If there's other stuff going on in my life that maybe the client's hinting to that I really do need to look at, like I need to go and do my own work. And that's a really important piece to all this. If a client gives you feedback, take it in, reflect on it, think about it, make changes, and really adjust your practice moving forward, so that hopefully that issue never comes up again and you don't have a situation pop up like this where a client feels like that you've hurt their feelings or you've caused harm. Now, again, I've said this many times. We're imperfect people. It totally happens. It's not a matter of preventing it, because I don't think we can do that 100%, because I think most people just naturally have really good intentions when it comes to being a therapist and how to help their clients. But if it does happen, address it, honor it, acknowledge it, and really take that in and think about, what I want to do with all of that. Put your feelings to the side for a second and be there for the client. And then in your own time and space, really think about, where is the truth in what they're saying? Do they have a point? Could I have come across that way? Like, could I have been insensitive in that moment? Even if I didn't intend to, even if that wasn't what I was thinking in the moment, like I probably did still come across that way. I need to sit with that discomfort. I need to deal with that. I need to show up differently. And then I need to give myself some grace, because I know it can be really hard to get down on ourselves if we get some negative feedback, and it can eat at us. And like I mentioned a minute ago, it's very quick to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I shouldn't be in this profession. And we go down this long, unhealthy spiral that's just really not necessary. Be kind with yourself. Give yourself grace. Give yourself self compassion, just like you want your clients to. And just look at this as an opportunity to continue to grow as a therapist, because none of us are at a place ever where we have nothing to learn, nothing to improve, nothing to gain. Like if you do feel like that about you and your profession, I I don't know how, because we're just all trying to learn and figure it out, and there's always something new to learn. So be open and receptive to that feedback. Be open to learning and growing, and really just look at this as an opportunity to grow your skill set and to show up better for clients moving forward. We don't have to go into any more detail about it than that, unless you feel like that you need to unpack some things in your own therapy, because maybe the client had some truth to what they were saying, or maybe they pointed out some bias within you that you really need to address in supervision and figure out what you want to do with that moving forward. And if that's the case, please do that. Seek supervision, seek consultation, go to your own therapy, do your own work, because it's only going to enhance your therapy practice and your ability to help and connect with clients. If you have ever encountered a rupture in a therapy working relationship, I'm curious, what did you do? How did you overcome that? Was it fixable? Was it something that you guys could continue to work on moving forward? And if not, how did that make you feel? I do think that if it comes time where it's really not fixable, then it's not fixable, and we need to refer the client out, and we need to just take that as an opportunity to learn. But if it is fixable, then best case scenario, let's do what we need to do to fix it and continue to help clients and show up in the best way possible. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new, please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss anything. And until next time, bye.